challenge renewable energy sources and their whole value chain, introducing materials development and recycling of components. To present the challenge, we have Francesco Matteucci, Program Manager responsible for this topic. Francesco?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, one practical question. Do I share, Rumen, or you share?
You share the presentation if you can.
Let me see if I get the right one. Yep. You see it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rumen. Good morning to everybody. I am Francesco Matteucci, Program Manager at the EIC on Advanced Materials for Energy and Environmental Sustainability, and it's a pleasure to present you the Accelerator Challenge, whose title is quite long. It's Renewable Energy Sources and their whole value chain, including materials development and recycling and components. Why we started this challenge and why we consider it relevant for the development of the European deep tech ecosystem in the energy, because it's not, let me say, a secret. It's quite obvious that we, as Europe, has been one of the most relevant continents, if not the most relevant continent, first trying to push in the direction of the renewable energy transition. And to make happen the renewable energy transition, we need to change a lot the way we live, the way we also think of the products that we manage, because everything obviously is energy driven, but to make the energy without having any kind or limiting as much as possible the greenhouse gas emissions, we need to make energy from renewable sources, to make as well everything that is possibly linked to the use of renewable energy sources become a reality in Europe. We need to start thinking that we have to set up in Europe the technologies, the improvement of the actual technologies and the technologies of the future concerning the renewable energy sources. This is based only on the traction of the European Green Deal on one side, and on the other side, the ongoing REPowerEU and the recent, let me say, policies. And so the idea of this challenge comes from a fact that there is a good news in 2022 as well in 2023. There has been the overcoming of the investments on the renewable energy and fuels instead of the fossil fuels. But anyway, there is a strong need to push and increase as much as possible the know-how coming out from the labs, from the private and public labs, from the companies, and make them happen as SMEs that can commercialize the technologies in the field of renewable energy sources. And we have to consider that most of the actual technologies, that means the solar PV and wind, that make the energy in the last 15 years mostly driving the renewable energy transition, have gone out of Europe in terms of production. In particular, the solar photovoltaic value chain, as we all know, has been driven by South Asia in the last 10 to 15 years. And also the wind, we see in terms of wind turbines, a lot of know-how has been going out of Europe and a lot of manufacturing plant has been set up out of Europe. So what normally is called the European demanufacturing process in the renewable energy sources. So this challenge wants really to drive the renewable energy transition in Europe in order to develop the renewable energy sources and minimize both, on one side, their environmental impact, but also the levelized cost of energy. So these are the two drivers in terms of why this challenge has been set up. We want to bring in Europe the best technologies that can produce and make the cost of renewable energy as low as possible and with less environmental impact as possible. And obviously, to make this, recently, two policies has been driving in this field, the coming out of the NZIA, that is the Net Zero Industry Act, and the ongoing coming out of Critical Raw Materials Act. These are strongly linked to the energy transition, because the idea is to develop the European strategic net zero manufacturing capacity And obviously, this is linked not only to the single manufacturing equipments, but to the whole supply and value chain that has to be brought back or brought in Europe. And so the specific objective of this challenge is in the area of, let me say, reconstructing or building the new technologies and scale up the different renewable energy sources and their whole supply chain. And the idea, obviously, is to maximize the Europeans' energy strategic autonomy. And so if we go inside the details of the specific three objectives of this call, we can see that on one side, we want proposals and so SMEs to apply to our challenge, SMEs that want to scale up the manufacturing of renewable energy sources, both in the field of thermal energy or electric energy, so heat and electricity, and obviously for the different scales and for the different uses. This means it can be for the large-scale use or also for the standalone small or distributed use. It can be for big scale or for large scale. It can be for megawatt or for watts. And the second objective is to scale up the technologies in the field of the supply chain of the renewable energy sources. So considering, and that is why in the title there is the link to the materials, so considering everything that is exploring, mining, and processing of the materials, as well as synthesizing advanced materials, excluding CRM, and obviously all the supply and the materials that are linked to the renewable energy sources. The idea, once again, for the second specific objective is to open to the small, medium enterprises that are working in the development of supply chain in terms of materials, both minerals or advanced materials. Where for advanced materials, we refer here to synthesizing materials that has got improved properties through the non-direct use of minerals. And the third part that is once again in the title is the scale-up technologies, recycling or reusing the different components, including materials, into something that goes what normally we call the circular economy, both for the youth to develop usable materials or components. Because in the second specific objective, we spoke about materials. We said we don't want critical raw materials. There is a second way, that is, we want to use to minimize their use, but we want to assure that if we use them, we are able to recycle and reuse them. So to include them inside the circularity or the circular economy approach. And so these are the three main objectives: the manufacturing, the materials, and the recycling technologies. Which are the expected outcomes? As I already said 3 times, I say the 4th time, we want to strengthen the value chain of Europe inside renewable energy sources. We want to limit as much as possible, as I said in the Critical Raw Materials Act, there is a clear identification of this issue, that is to limit as much as possible the EU significant dependency on importing critical raw materials, its process also of critical raw materials or components. We want to have them inside Europe. We have recently seen in the last 3 years the problem linked to having energy sources from other countries. So we want to have the value chain in Europe to make the strategic autonomy on the energy security of Europe a reality. And we want, obviously, because we are fully aware that to have the renewable energy transition, we will need a more diversified sources of energy. And so we want to avoid the limiting to one technology. And so we want to de-risk the future configuration of the different renewable energy sources. And so we want to diversify the development of all value chain in Europe for the different renewable energy sources. The budget is approximately 50 million euros, and obviously there is room for application as grant only or as equity. You can check on this site the the recording of the information on the different type of application that you can make in the yesterday EIC Accelerator Info Days that I'm sure you will have the link to them. And so this was my 10 minutes introduction, and I'm more than happy to answer to the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francesco.
Yes, thank you very much. There are two questions for you, Francesco, on the CRM. The first one is from Giorgio, and I read the question challenge. Which are the reasons for looking for technologies for exploring or mining materials excluding CRM? Don't we need CRM in Europe?
Yeah, as I said, there is the double activity on materials. On one side, we want to avoid the use of critical raw materials. And on this side, we want to look inside the different type of alternative mining of non-critical raw materials. But we are also fully aware of the actual need of critical raw materials. So in the third specific objective, there is a reference to the recycling as well as to the mining. So in a way, we want the mining technologies to be used for the different materials, both critical and non-critical, because we are fully aware of the need on the sides of these type of materials.
Yes, okay. Then there's exactly the same question on the specific objectives for including CRM. The next one is on wave energy conversion. So I read the question: does wave energy converter piloting material LD&I and manufacturing supply/manufacturing establishment fit this call? And they are here talking about the ability to produce electricity, hydrogen, and water.
Yeah, the answer is yes. Wave energy is part of the renewable energy sources as part of the ocean energy. So yes, if you want to develop a wave converter or components of it, yes, you are within the scope.
Then there's another question on the scope or eligibility. Is accelerated material discovery leading to the production of energy eligible under this challenge?
Sorry, Jonas, can you read again? Is
accelerated material discovery leading to the production of energy eligible under this goal?
Yeah, the answer is yes. It's part of the, if in this case accelerated, it means new type of synthesis or the use of algorithms and platforms to make the use of it to develop new materials for energy. The answer is yes.
Yeah, and there are many questions coming in by the minute, so bear with me just a second because I also have to read them first. So the next one is: are batteries manufactured from materials sourced from the European Union included in this call?
I would say no, but reread, sorry, Batteries
manufactured from materials sourced from the European Union included.
No, in this case, I mean, it is ongoing, the energy storage challenge, while if you want to make in work program 2024 on batteries, you have to apply to the open. This call is limited to renewable energy sources.
Okay, thank you very much. Then there's another one. I read the question: our company is building a geospatial and AI model to help RES developers find, assess, and acquire land for solar developers. Would this be applicable for the call? So there, yeah.
Yeah, my answer would be yes, because it is within the value chain. So if I understand correctly, if the idea is you are developing AI tools using data space or satellite space to enable a more, let me say, accurate, precise, and efficient way of installing wind turbines or solar PV, yes, you are within the value chain of the renewable energy sources.
Okay, very good. And okay, one more eligibility question.
Sorry, Jonas. Nevertheless, let me point out that it does not exist a clear and a one-way definition of deep tech. So deep tech is not only hardware driven. Normally, it's hardware with software embedded, but we also have some companies that are funded purely based on software. So I always say that in theory, it is But then we have to consider, let me say, that the identification and the meaning of deep tech that normally is more hardware driven than software driven. Anyway, pure software is not excluded.
Okay, very good. So then there's another question on technologies that improve the energy production and reduce the maintenance costs, whether they would be eligible.
I would say yes, because once again, if they are linked to the maintenance reduction cost of the renewable energy sources, they are within the value chain. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Now we give you a break and ask Giovanni Della Clappa on 2 more questions on the application procedure.
Yep.
So Giovanni, if I submit to open call in 2023 long proposal with a November deadline and got rejected, and with a short proposal in 2022, which was approved, can I now apply to this challenge?
I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but you have to start back from the short proposal. Because according to the new rules introduced with the work program 2024, only proposals which received a go at short proposal level in 2023 and 2024 are eligible to submit a full proposal. If your short proposal was a go in 2022, I'm sorry about that, you have to start back from short proposal.
Okay, thank you. Then I submitted to the November 2023 deadline and received a rejection last week. Do I now have 3 more chances to resubmit or only 2?
2. The rule now is so if it is sorry, 3 chances because it's the new rules are we start from scratch now. So the count is as of now, sorry, because it was November. As of now, you have 3 chances. So the new rule is 3 strikes and out, meaning that when you receive 3 rejection at any stage combined, you are out for the overall duration of the Horizon Europe program. So no matter if you had 1 rejection, for instance, at the short proposal and then 2 at full proposal, you're out because the total is 3 rejections. But we start from scratch now.
Perfect. And then for you, Francesco, back to you on the challenge. Are mineral detection and quantification technologies for mining included?
Let me say yes, obviously there is a need to show that this type of detection or quantification technologies are good for minerals that can be used within the renewable energy sources. Because if written as it is, it may also look that if you develop something that is new to drill the oil in the ocean, we find it. No, it's not, because you have to use it for the value chain of renewable energy sources.
Okay, and is emerging renewable tidal or energy like tidal or wave or airborne wind best suited under this challenge, or should they rather go for the open call?
This challenge is exactly for also this kind of technologies like tidal, wave, airborne. So they should apply. I mean, they can also apply for open, but we set up the challenge exactly for this kind of technologies.
Yeah, okay. This is it for now regarding the specific objectives and of the challenge. But maybe back to Giovanni, 2 more questions on the procedure of application. I read the question: does the EIC fund have a different or enthusiastic approach to beneficiaries selected via challenge calls? For example, when it comes to due diligence, company valuations, and term sheets.
Thank you for the question. I'm afraid not, in the sense that the due diligence is performed in the same, way for all companies. And then if, in terms of strategic importance of one application or another, some consideration may apply on, for instance, deciding to have a kind of a golden share or something like that. But no, it will be performed with the same type of scrutiny, same degree of scrutiny. Yeah.
Okay, and we have had this question in one form or the other already this morning, but good to repeat it maybe. If a project is rejected from the challenge because of its specific scope, can they apply for the open?
Of course, yes. If, for instance, a project is rejected because the evaluators believe that this proposal doesn't, let's say, respond to the challenge, of course, the applicant is free to reapply in the open or eventually with an improved proposal. Absolutely, yeah.
What is relevant in this case, on exactly, in my opinion, linked to this question, is that there are also some constraints inside this challenge. As I said in the slide 3 or 4, where I spoke about levelized cost of energy of environmental impact, is also relevant in this case to highlight that this is what we are looking for. We are looking for technology that in the mid, short, or long term will be able to have a levelized cost of energy economically sustainable as well as a low environmental impact. And these are constraints that must be clarified during the application.
Very good. And as of this very second, there are no more questions remaining.
So
Okay.
to intervene here, but maybe we can clarify that for this year there will be consensus meetings. I don't know if Anne-Marie you have presented in the beginning, so the experts will discuss.
Thank you,
Oh,
Andreas. Very
we
important.
We did not. So Andreas, please, if you want to explain it.
Yes. So in 2024, we have introduced the consensus meetings for proposals where the 3 evaluators have a disagreement on some criteria or on all criteria. So if you have 2 experts who give a go and one that gives a no-go in one or more criteria, then we will organize consensus meetings. So the proposal will be discussed among these 3 experts to try to find a consensus. And this is a radical change from the previous evaluations in the accelerator, and which means that there will not be only one expert saying, I do not agree, and my opinion prevails, because if I do not agree, the whole, let's say, assessment is no-go. Now we will have a discussion to to examine why there is a disagreement and try to reach an agreement. I mean by that, but that the discrepancies, or let's say, if a proposal seemed for one expert not to meet well the objectives and the impact of the challenge, this will be discussed and we will have an agreement on this, which gives more room for discussion, let's say, and common understanding of these issues, which was not the case before because it was an individual assessment. If you want to add something, Giovanni or Anne-Marie or any colleague, please go ahead. But I think it is
just to say
important
that
for
it is a
everyone
very
to know.
important novelty, because before we could, as you said, have one proposal rejected because one expert was disagreeing with the other 2. You needed 3 goes. And this doesn't concern only the assessment of the challenge, but the assessment of any element of the proposal. So it could be the team, it could be the risk level, it could be even the excellence itself, for example, the novelty of the technology. So in this case, we will gather the 3 experts and they will present the different opinions, and we will try to reach a decision on whether this application goes to interview or not.